So one day, this one kid that he was a Catholic and I was Jewish, and we used to talk about each other's religion. And nobody in the army knew I was Jewish because I had red hair.
Uh-huh.
So we were sitting around the fire one day in Holland, and this kid, Nick, he said, "What religion are you, Paul?" And I said, "Jewish." And you could have heard a pin drop, because nobody would ever talk. They always talk about the Jewish people at home making things for the army and never in the army.
Uh-huh.
And they really shut up after that.
Oh, baby.
Tell him about the story about when you were on those floating pontillas.
The pontoons.
Yeah.
Oh, we were building a bridge across the Rhine River, and it used to be pushed across by 2 motorboats. And you start building the bridge from the other side and coming toward back to where you started.
Uh-huh.
So the Air Force was supposed to knock out the Germans that were on the other side shooting at us. Well, somehow they got screwed up and they didn't knock them out. And the 2 motorboats were pushing across the river, and the one motorboat stalled. And he was going to turn around and try to get back to our side. And the sergeant that was with us in our boat told him he would shoot him if he tried to get back. Well, anyway, the Germans were shooting at us, and I couldn't swim. And I didn't know if I was more afraid of drowning or getting shot. So we would lay down in the pontoons, and finally the Air Corps came across and knocked out the Germans, and we got across to the other side. And we got across the other side, there was a building that was built under the ground. And when we got into the building, it was filled with German women. And if they had a pistol, they could have captured the whole bunch of us. Anyway, we got the bridge built. I was supposed to be a radio operator, and I never saw a radio. All we did was build bridges and roads.
Uh-huh. I guess you were amongst the first Americans to cross the Rhine River then.
Yeah.
If you put the bridge, if you were the one that built the bridge, that'd be something. That photograph in there of the bridge, now that's the story.
Dad, what was the story about when you were doing something with the barracks and you wanted to verify? You did something that was kind of funny, I remember.
Yeah, when we were sent to Germany waiting for the invasion, I got the idea. I was an electrician, and this friend of mine was a carpenter. So I went up to the head of the barracks. So we lived in English old barracks. I don't know how many there were, about 50 of them. Got the idea that I would go around and look where the panels were and everything, and the carpenter would check everything to make sure that they were all right. Well, that was a good idea, but we didn't have to stand any KP or anything. So we'd go around and mark everything. And we wouldn't have to stand in line for lunch or anything. We'd just go right up to the front of the line and eat. And then if we wanted to leave the barracks, all we had to do was sign out. We didn't have to ask anybody.
Oh, see, that was good duty, I guess.
Yeah. So they had 2 armies in England. One was a fake army to make them believe that they were going to invade from one side instead of the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, when the invasion, the Germans would be dropping these bombs on us in England. These buzz bombs, they'd fly across, and when they'd stop, they'd drop. And we'd build, what do you call them, things to lay in. And after a while, we just wouldn't lay in anymore. So anyway, when the invasion came, the Germans didn't know which army was real and which wasn't.
Sure.
So Patton was in charge of one army, and I forgot who was in charge of the other. So we were in the army that was a fake. And we went across D-Day +7. I think we hit Lahore in Germany. And it was hell, I'll tell you, it was something else. People dying, and well, anyway, we finally got across into France. And we went through the Maginot Line, through France. And when we got into Holland, the Germans would come back into France. So when we would get into Holland, the Germans would come back to France, and we'd have to come back to France and get the Germans out of there.
What was that part of Battle of the Bulge, or did that come a little bit later in the campaign?
I'm sorry?
The Battle of the Bulge, was that part of it, or was that later in the campaign?
Later.
Okay. What do you remember of the Battle of the Bulge? Do you?
I don't remember too much.
Yeah.
It was when the Germans anyway, they made a big offensive push on the American army, and anyway, when we were going into Germany, we'd see the American bringing the German prisoners back. I think we conquered them in a battle of Bulge. I think that was pretty much the end of the war. And when I think Japan just they surrendered before the Germans. When Truman decided they were going to drop a bomb on them, and they surrendered to MacArthur. And we were on the Elbe River ready to cross into Germany when the war ended, and we didn't cross the Elbe River. That's when we came with the hell on wheels when they first went into Germany. We went in by land. We didn't cross the river. And I don't know, we went into Germany, and I forgot who they surrendered to. Anyway, it was a big mix-up.
You remember where you were when you heard that Germany had surrendered?
We were at the Elbe River.
Okay, when you heard that Germany had surrendered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't you have to wait
Yeah.
until the French, because they want to be the first ones in or something?
Could have been the Russians.
Or the Russians, or?
The Russians.
The Russians, okay.
They wanted to be the first ones into Berlin.
Right.
So we waited till they got into Berlin, and then we got to go in.
Huh. So you could have been first.
Yeah.
You just had to, politics.
Well, that's when when President Roosevelt died. And he and Stalin had an agreement that they would be the first ones into Berlin.
Any idea why? Did they ever say?
No, because the Germans had attacked the Russians, and they really gave them hell. And Russia was on our side at that time.
Yeah.